Hi everyone. So I wanted to make a video about free will. I was talking to another friend who's intuitive and in the spiritual practice last night, and we were just talking about like ourselves and how like we're guided to go one way, but then something shifts within that situation, and then we're removed from it, or we're guided to go into a different way. Um, and in free will, how we're given what we so free will. We want, I explain it in my readings that I can see, besides communicating with people who have passed, I can also see past, present, and future situations as an intuitive. The past is always the past. Can't change the past. I see what I see, and I relate that for clarity. When it comes to the present time, I see what is presently going on at that moment, like what is going on in your life at that moment and where it's taking you. Same for the future. 9 out of 10 times it is near future. Sometimes I'm really ahead, so I don't really have a time on that. I give it to you and I tell you that, but it's still the future, and we all have free will. And I say that because there is always an outcome, and we will always end up in the place we're supposed to be. So if I can't change the fact that I'm a medium, and at the end of the day, it was brought to this. So no matter what choices I made in the past, it still brought me to where I needed to be. Could it have brought me sooner? Possibly. That's where free will and guidance comes into play. Could it have brought me later? Yes, absolutely. It's free will. So I like to explain that. So when you come to me at that present moment, I see what's going on in your life. I see who's in your life. I see the situation, career-wise, relationship-wise. I might say to you, the relationship is going great. It's whatever I'm getting from your spirit guides. And this is where free will comes in, because sometimes I'll get, oh, well, you were wrong. I wasn't necessarily wrong. Everything was going good. And it's not saying I'm necessarily always right. Let me clarify that as well before I get an email. But I'm seeing the situation for what it is. I'm seeing that there is a long-term, who you're with at that moment is very long term. I'm seeing, everything's aligning, everything's going well, the communication is great. When you leave that reading, everything can be going exactly how I was telling you, but this is where free will comes into play. Your communication can stop with that person. That will shift the energy within the situation. Or that person that you're with might go out and stray, in being faithful within the relationship, however way unfaithfulness is to you. He made that choice. She made that choice. That choice has consequences. That is free will. And now it has consequences. The relationship may no longer be in your highest good. So your guide's going to guide you in a different direction. Truth is going to surface. You now have that choice and that free will to stay in the relationship or go. And that is where things change. And I like to tell everyone that, because it's not necessarily that myself or another reader was wrong. It's just that something changed within the situation. Something changed within your life that shifted or changed the direction of it, or the situation, whether it be work, career, or relationship, or even family. Because free will is a thing. You have a choice. That's why I always say, like, when you're asking for guidance, be specific and ask your angels and your loved ones or whoever you believe in for help, because it is free will there too. So they just can't help you or intervene sometimes. They need permission. Same thing with life. Like, you give the permission to how you want it to be. So you have free will. And again, you might still be making the same choices, but if somebody within the situation, whether it be work or family or romantically, they make a different choice, or the choices that they make will change the energy in the situation. It will change your outcome as well. Because if it's no longer in your highest good, you will be removed from it, or you'll be directed in a different direction. And I get that too, like for myself, like I might be one way, like I might be guided to go one way and the energy is really great and I'm reading, this is where I'm supposed to be. If my purpose is served, then I need to move forward. or if something within the situation energetically changes due to other people's free will or frequency, and it's not aligning with me, then I am going to be redirected out of it because it's not in my best interest or my highest good anymore. So that's the same for you as well. And I like to explain that because that's where free will and energy shift comes in to play. Because if it's not in your highest good anymore, or you're making different choices to free will, it's going to change what myself saw at that moment or somebody else saw. Because again, we're reading you and your energy and the situations in your life at that present time for a future outcome. So just keep that in mind with free will. We can only present what we're seeing. And also, we're not God. For myself, I trust 100% what I am getting. If I'm not getting it clearly, I will say I'm not quite sure. If I don't know what it means, I'll give it to you and say I'm not quite sure what this means. I will try my hardest to understand it. And it's not always that happens. Even the best mediums, 80% right all the time. If we were 100% right, we would be God, and we're not. So always go, and I always say that to you, even if I'm giving you really, really clear, and I'm really in my gut certain that this is a clear, accurate message, but you're not quite understanding the message, or you're not receiving it at that time, or ready to receive it at that time. I will say, listen, this is what I get. It's all for you. You need to follow your heart. You need to follow your gut. You need to follow your own guidance and intuition. Because again, I'm not God and I might not be right, or, you might feel it differently. So I'll always say that to you. As most readers should say, this is what I'm getting. You also need to follow your intuition and guidance. But everything is free will. So it's not necessarily that reader, because sometimes a person will come to me and be like, well, some things they said that was right, but everything else was wrong. Doesn't necessarily mean they're wrong. Two things. One, free will could have changed it. And two, it might not have happened yet. So keep that in mind. We're just doing the best we can with your guides. But most importantly, when I can't stress enough that free will is free choice, and it doesn't necessarily have to be your free will. It could be somebody within the situation or the relationship's free will that will now change it due to consequences. So kind of like the butterfly effect, something happens, something within that changes it. Now it's a different effect towards everything else. So just keep that in mind. Again, that goes with energy shifting. You might have been brought to a job and it's going great, but when things start not to go great and things change, you might go into a job and it's really honest and good, and the boss is great. The company got bought over. The new boss isn't so great. The energy isn't good for you. That's when you might be taken out of that position and put into a new position somewhere else. So just, kind of honor and trust your gut and everything and your guidance. I hope that helps. I hope it didn't confuse anybody else. Just remember, there is no right or wrong choice when it does come to free will and free choice. Always a lesson to be learned, always a purpose to be served. And you will always get to where you need to be. The outcome will always be where you should be at that time. Have a great day.